All right, thank you guys for being here for our first ever bluebirdsradio.com live sports show, live here from Barleycorns in Cold Spring, Kentucky. Before we begin, just a little bit of a backstory on this. This is a project now 2 years in the making, of first having the idea and then finding a place and then getting, all the fine-tuned details together. So to be here tonight is a huge win for a big team. So I have a lot of people I got to thank before we get going. Originally the idea was presented to our great athletic department, Wes Caldwell, our phenomenal athletic director. Really helped me get this thing off the ground. And then that went into Coach Andy Raker. I don't know if Coach Raker's here or not yet, but he really helped get this thing here off the ground. He found the spot, kind of helped get it with football and all the other sports together. Amy Lee, who's over here. Amy's been my connect over here, and Brooke is around here somewhere. He's been great as well. Both of you guys have been really, really key in getting everybody here, getting everything set. This really good-looking backdrop, tablecloth, it's all been really, really good. Barleycorns has been the best host I could have asked for so far. Superintendent Brian Robinson, our great advisor here in the broadcast program, Mr. Bill Poff, where Casey Bryant and Monica Howard both have been really big helps to me. And both family, parents, they're back over there, been huge help as well. And with that, I think we are ready to begin, hopping into some other sports. And before we begin, I'd just like to give a big thank you and congratulations to Coach Jeremy Bione. Coach Bione had been the varsity baseball coach at Highlands since 2009, and he announced he's stepping away from the program this offseason. He was a coach of mine back a couple years ago, and I've worked in his program just broadcasting the games. Cannot say enough good things about Coach. Giving me the opportunity to do the games, and, some of those baseball games have been some of the most fun I've had doing this and some of the most successful streams we've had. So doing all of those games under Coach Bione and what he's done for the whole community beyond baseball has been phenomenal. He's been an excellent figure in Fort Thomas and had a very successful coaching career. He'll end with 12 straight district titles, 4 region titles, 2 state runner-ups. He also coached greats such as Ethan Cavanaugh and Drew Rahm. Rahm right now is on the IL, but he is with the St. Louis Cardinals, and he's been a massive part of the resurgence of Highlands baseball. I know he's not here, but thank you to Coach Bione. And we will go ahead and start with other in-season sports. First with the volleyball team, coached by Jim DeLong, now in his second tenure at Highlands. They played their first scrimmage of the year yesterday against Dixie Heights and looked really good. They played him and beat him in straight sets, and they are excited to keep growing this season. Lila Bottom is looking to continue with the team lead in kills. Ella Cox, Liz Perkins, and Sydney Shoemaker have been huge on the team with assists. Hayden Gessner continues to be one of, if not the best defender in the region, and they play their next scrimmage tomorrow against Connor High School at home at Russell Bridges Gym. Make sure you show up for the volleyball team tomorrow night at home in a scrimmage against Connor. There's big expectations for the Bluebirds this year. If you look in over at Link, the Northern Kentucky Volleyball Association has them in the top 15 at the 14th ranked team in the state. So they're looking to continue what was a pretty good year last year and keep going with that success under Coach DeLong. Their first regular season game is 1 week from today, and it will be at home against Holmes. And their first away game is the following day at Scott, taking on the Eagles. Now moving on to golf, one of my personal favorites to watch. They've been really, really doing well on the boys' side. They are already in full swing to the season, and that starts in late June. I don't think a lot of people realize the golf season is one that starts into the summer well before school begins, and they're in late June is when they began. And Hank Schick competed in the Tony Blom Metropolitan Amateur Championship in Cincinnati and the Kenton County Junior Open. Alex Race was in the top 5 at number 4, shooting an 86. As a team, they came in second at the Pendleton County Invitational. Hank Schick finished third individually with a 70. Nate Surrey shot a 73. Oliver Golden with a 79. Alex Race with another 86. And Abram Keys with a 96. That is 3 Bluebirds there in the top 10 of that tournament. At the Highlands Invitational, Hank Schick was once again atop of the Bluebirds scoring. And James Kuhn on the B squad then led the scoring there with a 76. Devin Massey was right behind him with an 82. Then July 31st hit for the Ortho Cincy Invitational, and not only would the Bluebirds take the win, the top 4 scores for Highlands were some of the best we've seen in a long time. Alex Race with an 81, Oliver Golden 76, Hank Schick with a 70, and Nate Surrey with a 66. Surrey would have the lead in regulation, but he would end up being tied and lose in a 3-hole playoff, taking second place. And in the Beechwood Invitational, they'd get third as a team, and Hank Schick and Nate Surrey being 1 and 2 respectively on the individual leaderboard. The girls, the program is growing consistently. 14 girls now coming out for the team, which is more than double of the golfers than what we had last year. Overall, there's 3 things stressed around the team. Number 1 is having fun with golf. Number 2 is confidence. And number 3 is not quitting on what's being built around. It's a very young program. They say, I was talking to Coach Lembright a couple days ago, and he said he's really excited about the middle school talent that's starting to come through. Especially 7th and 8th graders are playing very well for their age and continuing to grow the program over time. Jenna Ritchie, Samfe Nzeku, and Annie Bauer, Annie Bauer are the senior leaders for the team. He would also like to thank Highland Country Club for having the flexibility and having them play. Both boys and girls have the great availability of playing at the Highland Country Club. Moving on to soccer, first with the boys soccer team. They're back and looking to take over with the 36th district. Looking to take it back this year. They are returning their leading scorer from last year in Harrison Gamble. He had 15 of the team's 55 goals scored last season. They're also returning Sam Arnold, Joe Subak, Sam Lang, and Josh Hartong, with a team total of 12 seniors. They had a very good preseason, not losing any games, going 4-0-1. They beat teams such as Anderson and North Hardin. And it's not just the seniors on the boys soccer team making the big plays. Freshman David Valdez, junior Nick Wilson, among others, have made a big splash early. Their first game, regular season game, is at Beechwood Saturday at 10 a.m. Make sure to show up for the boys soccer team. On the page of girls soccer, they are really excited to be starting another season. They are bringing back 6 varsity players and a group of underclassmen ready to help both freshmen and sophomores. Franny Smith, Reese Wilkins, and Kate Faust all contributed to 34 goals total last season, will be returning to continue to play. They are all juniors and seniors. Kendall Graves, Natalie Heingardner, and Kaylee Mills return, having helped anchor the defense to help the Birds earn 12 shutouts and only allowed 21 goals over the last season. Preseason allowed the Bluebirds to face good competition and allowed new varsity players, including freshman Marin Orm and Hope Darnell, to step up on the field. Their first game is against St. Henry at St. Henry next Monday night at 8 p.m. The varsity kicks off. Over on the cross-country side, the first season under new coach Lance Bucher is underway, and the team's first meet is Williamstown for the Panda Classic. Coach told me, "We're working hard, putting in the miles, and we're looking forward to starting the season August 24th. Leading the team will be senior Brady Robinson, who's PR'd with a 17:53 5K and looking to add and send the Birds back to state once again." And also, you can't forget about the cheerleading squad. They are getting ready for the blue-white game tomorrow night for football. They're getting ready to get the paper and all the good things they do for the team and the experience of the football night. And they're also getting ready for their competition season, so make sure to check them out on the sideline all year long. Our cheerleaders do a phenomenal job. Working things back around, we'd like to thank Barleycorns once again for hosting in this phenomenal setup. And just as a preview for the rest of the night, we'll talk to 5 senior Bluebird football players, and then Coach Hayden Spire, and then wrapping off the night with Coach Bob Spire. We have a big night ahead of us, and we've already covered a couple of the sports already, so we're going to take a quick couple-minute break here, and then we'll be back with some players to talk to the team. And we are back live from Barleycorns, ready for more interviews, or for our first set of interviews, I should say. First of all, thank you to Barleycorns once again for having this phenomenal setup, backdrop supplied, and the great location as we ready to get into this. First 2 interviews with offensive lineman Torrin Bryant and safety wide receiver Hayden Haas. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Brennan?
I'm great, Torrin.
Doing good.
All right, good to hear. So now going on your 4th year in the program, what's been your favorite part of the last 4 years? Let's start with Hayden.
My favorite part has just been the teams. All of our teams have been great. All our teammates. I love especially going down to WKU my sophomore year. That was a great experience. Plus all our Hoover trips. Those have been my favorite parts.
Torrin?
Honestly, just being a part of the team, like Hall said, getting it to grow as a family, getting to know everybody over the years. I felt like I've gotten a lot closer to my teammates than I have and with past teams and like junior league and before them.
You came into a first-year head coach, both of you, as you entered the program for the first time. Talk to me some of the challenges of what that was like.
Some of the challenges, so starting off with freshman year with a new culture coming in, more intense practices, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have, we did winter lifting with the old regime, but with this new head coach in, it's been awesome. But the hardest part specifically for me was just my position change from sophomore to junior year. That was my hardest part, trying to transition, learn how to replay defense again after playing QB for basically the whole of my life.
Torn?
I think the most challenging part overall was just having to learn the new culture, get to know the new coaches, learn what they expect of us. But over time, we all got used to it, and it really became the new culture that we've instilled upon those around us and the younger classmen.
We've seen a lot of big games, and I know, Hayden, you and I were talking about a couple in specific earlier today. Is there a specific game that sticks out to you in your mind that you remember being, thinking of like that was just a really great game to be a part of?
Yeah. So obviously last year's playoff game, that was a heartbreaking loss, but my favorite game was probably my sophomore year against Covcath. Finally getting back over the hump, beating them in their place. We hope to do that again.
Torn?
I got to say, my favorite game probably also has to be that Covcath game our sophomore year, just because I got to play in it a lot. I made a few plays, and it was just a lot of fun to finally stick it to them and beat them.
Yeah, you were the final play in that defensively. You had that sack to seal it up.
Yeah, I did. That is true. I remember that actually.
All right, now seniors, 4 years later. How have you taken over being a leader now? You're the big guys in the locker room. How has that been, becoming seniors on the team?
So it starts from day one since winter weights. We just got to set the example. That's really what we had to do. We had to show the younger kids how to work out right, just so we could build up from the bottom. Then throughout all summer practice, we had to show them how to practice right, make sure we were physical enough, especially when we put the pads on.
Torn?
Taking over the role of being a senior I've had seniors throughout all 4 years, telling me what to do, leading me, showing me what to do, and it's now just trying to take over that role and teach the younger classmen what to do, what's the right procedures, and how to become the best players they can.
Going back to last season, that was, probably one of the biggest seasons we've had in a long time, breaking through finally now in the third year of this era. What did you learn from that, and specifically going into that last game of the season, how it turned out? What are your lessons that you guys are taking away from that?
Just we got to finish. After especially how the season ended, we put up the least amount of points we had put up almost all year. But then also we got to get stops towards the end. But we just got to finish throughout the whole season, every play, every game.
Torn?
That last game of the year for me was love-hate. I hate to say it, but I was kind of happy we lost because it finally meant I get to be back and going and doing stuff since I wasn't able to play most of that season because of an injury. But it also was heartbreaking because I realized I don't get to see a lot of my senior friends since they're going to be leaving this next year.
Now, explain to me a lot of coming back from that injury, because it was torn ACL week 2 against Covcath at home, running downfield on that punt. Take me through the process of, it was a non-contact injury.
Yeah.
From the moment, you got the injury, you got the diagnosis, to surgery, to where we are now, and I've seen you're back.
Yeah, I am back, but the whole process of that honestly, it went by really quick, the whole figuring out I had a torn ACL, because on the sideline, they tested it. They were like, you probably should go get an MRI, see if it's all right. I got the MRI. Turns out it was torn. Luckily, I was surgery ready pretty quick, so I was able to get in for surgery about a week later. But then after that, it was just a whole process of I have to constantly be working, always trying to strengthen it. I can't take any days off, seeing personal trainers, physical therapists, always monitoring with my doctors, making sure when I get back to lifting, talking to my coaches, and making sure that I'm doing everything I can to stay healthy, but also get back as quick as I can.
And how's this off season been going from, last year it's been no contact at all, now morphing into, okay, we got to get back after it because the season's right around the corner?
It's been a lot of fun to finally get back into the swing of, getting to hit people. I missed it, It's a way to kind of take out some anger, getting back at it, getting to go knock some people down. It's a lot of fun. It's not fun watching it.
That's a football response right there, people. Back over to Hayden. Now we're into scrimmage season. We got 2 wins in a row. What are we thinking? What's the number one thing you're taking away now from those games?
So most recently, yesterday we played that Ryle scrimmage. We played very well on offense and on defense. We just coming into the season, we need to focus on tackling for sure. Tackling, and then some of our special teams could always do better. They almost returned one on us in the male scrimmage. Had a tackle on that one, so we had to. We just got to focus in, lock in. This blue-white scrimmage should help us do that. Just hone in both sides, and then also get our younger guys ready to play just in case. There's always a freak injury like Torn in week 2. We always got to have everybody ready.
Now, tackling's interesting because last night, for those that were not at the Ryle scrimmage, you had one of the best tackling games I've seen in a while. You were knocking people. You were really hitting them. Is that something you've been honing in this offseason?
Yeah, I've been hitting the weight room. I've been in on those tackling drills. Been watching some film. I had to
take some out there.
Yep, I had to take some anger out on them, especially on those Ryle Raiders.
Torrin, what are you taking away from those scrimmages?
I'm just taking away the, being able to improve from everything. Being able to go back, look at it at film, see where we need to change things. Also, that's my first game time experience and almost a year. So it's good to see that I'm still able to go out there and play, and I'm not nervous about anything.
That's good. Now we have an interesting schedule moving forward. Blue-white on Friday. What do you guys look for in blue-white?
In blue-white, we're just trying to show the community what we're all about. We're going to get everybody a chance to play, from seniors through freshmen. Everybody's going to show what they have. We obviously know what some of the seniors have because we've played before, but it's really about the underclassmen showing up. They're going to be playing most of the game after that, so they're just going to show out, show everybody what they can do.
Is there anything specific you're looking for on Friday?
I think the blue-white game is also a big part of the community, trying to get people to show out, get them ready for the football season, because we want them to show out and trying to support us throughout the season. This is really our first good look that everybody can have at us, inter-squad scrimmage, getting to see everybody go to work.
Then we look at the upcoming schedule after that when we start the regular season. First game, we do get to be at home this year against Lexington Catholic. Then week 2, what some call one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game of the regular season, on the road against Covenant Catholic. So what did you learn from last year on having 2 massive games week 1 and 2, and how do you use that and take that into this year?
So after week 1, we were pretty high after that win down at Lex Cath. We just got to keep locked in. But last year was a special scenario because we had to practice in the mornings against for that Cov Cath week, so it kind of threw us off. But this year we should be locked in, ready, go back in their place, get another one.
Torn?
I think it's kind of difficult to go in, have probably 2 of your harder games, first 2 games of the season, because if you win those 2, you're looking down at the rest of the season like, oh, it's going to be a cakewalk, and you get to playoffs, you're starting to ease up on people when you really want to start riling it up. But having those first 2 big games start of the season, I like it. It really gets everybody motivated, gets them going. You don't want to lose those first 2, especially to those 2 teams.
Now, Hayden, specifically you, I think, have become one of the more well-rounded players on this team. You play a lot of defense, as we saw last night. You also got a wide receiver on offense. Talk to me about the transition you went through to now becoming a player that plays just about anywhere.
It starts It starts from just being able to know the game, know the game inside out, offense, defense. Especially, I've been watching some two-way players the last couple of years. Specifically, like last year, Carson Class played fantastic two ways on special teams as well. So yeah, just watching people ahead of me and making sure I know all the mental aspects, so I can just go out and do the physical work.
Torin, over to you. You're back O-line and D-line. Talk to me about training to not only be a top-tier offensive lineman, but before you got hurt last year, you were really playing well on the defensive line. I assume the training's not the same for both, and what are the differences on becoming an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman?
They are different. You know, it's a lot of having to learn the drills for both offense and defense. You gotta really pay attention. Can't slack off in film because you gotta realize there's defensive plays. You gotta know all of them. You gotta know when linebackers are blitzing, where they're blitzing. In offense, as a lineman, I gotta know what everybody else is doing, so we can all the O-linemen work together to make a block so the play works. So it's over the years, I've had to learn to be able to manage playing both and having to recognize I need to know all this stuff and still play well.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. This is a great interview. Stick around for a little bit longer. We got 3 more varsity players coming on up for the next interview. Hayden, Torin, thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
We'll take a short couple minutes here, and then it will be Tommy Faring, TJ Hicks, and Dominic Gregory coming up next. And ladies and gentlemen, we're back live on Barleycorns. First of all, thank you if you're listening live online, bluebirdsradio.com. It's where this and all other Highlands Away sports are live broadcasted week in and week out. Thank you all for tuning in online. If you are tuning in online, and all away football games, anything in the playoffs, anything that will not be at home will be on bluebirdsradio.com. Make sure you check that out. Basketball, baseball, maybe some soccer, volleyball as well. Also, thank you once again to Barleycorns for being a phenomenal host and keeping our spot in great shape, great backdrop, table setup. It all has been thanks to Barleycorns for making this possible. Our next set of interviews is going to be all seniors once again. Dom Gregory on my left, and then going on my right, we have Tommy Faring and TJ Hicks. All right, guys, let's get into it. Number one, you guys are going to notice similar questions as the last time. What has been your favorite part of the last 4 years?
My favorite part of the last 4 years is probably just
the brotherhood made through football and the friendships that I've made through my high school career.
Tommy?
The best part of the last 4 years is like learning how much dedication and hard work can let you reach your goals you want to achieve and help you like a long time in life. And I think football has a big impact on what type of person you want to be and like how good of a person you want to be if you dedicate yourself to what you want to do and you work hard.
Thanks. TJ?
Throughout the last 4 years, my favorite part has been game day.
Great. And you guys came in, as we mentioned, with our last set of guys, as freshmen, brand new coaching staff, brand new system, brand new attitude in the locker room. First, starting with Dom, what was the most challenging part of coming into that new system?
Probably just meeting the coaches and getting comfortable with the coaches and the new team playing together, because in middle school we was all split up, and coming all together and creating a good team.
Tommy?
Learning a whole new offense and like a whole new schematic like way to play the game, and just like the amount of dedication it takes to play Bob's Power football, and how much hard work and waking up every single morning, and even when you don't want to, and even though you get tired, you still do it because you want to be good at football and you want to be the best and you want to be playing in December.
So you guys coming in were at a basically zero base knowledge of the playbook. You guys had to start over that freshman year.
Yeah, it's still a restart, which freshman is not as much playbook as varsity is, but like even going to jump between freshman and sophomore year, it's still like adding probably freshman around like 25% of the varsity plays. So it's still a big increase from freshman to sophomore year. It's just a lot of learning and studying your plays, and just overall just repetition just makes you get better at knowing what plays you're doing and what to run.
And how has that helped you as a player getting that extended playbook now, because you're both on offense and defense?
But the extended playbook has helped me. I also sat behind a really good tight end before me, and I had time to like evolve and get better and like learn the plays and switching to the defensive side of the ball is it's been a little bit of struggle learning all the new plays because I didn't play any defense my sophomore year and I just started at my end of my junior year. So it's like a whole new playbook I have to learn, but just with the repetition and my fellow D linemen and coach still helping me, it's been fun.
So TJ, back to the original question. You know, the first 4 years, looking back, new coaching staff. What was your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge from the first 4 years with the coaching staff was just getting thrown in to the new playbook, obviously, and then from junior to senior year, we changed our defense, so I had to relearn what I already knew, so it made it difficult.
Talk to me about that changing defense because, you know, it seems that the defense recently, especially with all those big guys up the middle, has been really good. Talk to me about some of the big, you know, what you've noticed in the last 2 years, or last year, I should say, over that changing period.
So the change was that with the big guys up front, they really clog the middle, so we have to keep contained on the outsides, and they bounce out a lot, so we have to make sure we can stop that.
Because keeping contained, I think a lot of people immediately assume that to be just on the straight quarterback contained, but you guys do a really good job, I think, of keeping the running back contained as well. What's been, you know, the key to getting that right?
The key to containing the running back is having the D linemen keep their contained, and if they're going inside, the linebackers have to keep the contained. They have to know their responsibilities.
Thanks. Now we look back, been some very memorable games over the last 4 years. Dom, we'll start with you. What has been your favorite game to be a part of?
Probably Cufcat sophomore year, just because we were on the road playing at Cufcat, and it was a big win. They were very good that year, and it was just fun to be a part of and win with my guys.
So I know my moment just because I was able to call it, and that was, you know, that game in general probably ranks right up there for near number one for me as well. What was your favorite moment from that game?
Probably when Charlie Noon returned that punt return for a touchdown. That really put a seal on the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Tommy, favorite game last 4 years?
I think the biggest game we've learned from is from my sophomore year against Simon Kenton when we came off a big loss to South Warren the week before, and we responded with a great game against Simon Kenton, which we eventually ended up losing. I think it was like 44-42. It was a good game against a good team, and I just feel like we learned a lot from it, and we ended up winning 8 straight games and going into the playoffs.
So what I remember most from that game is how big the crowd was at home, because that was week 2 coming off. I think the support was definitely in question. That was you guys feeding off the energy of the crowd that week in particular was definitely a huge factor. Is there anything else that sticks out to you about that game?
I mean, it was like a playoff atmosphere. I mean, it's just like as much as people would be there for a Cufcat game last year, it was great to be a part of hearing all the chants and the screeching of fans. I feel like it made it easier for our defense and our offense to get a rhythm going and get momentum. So which I feel like it led to a high-scoring game because our offense was executing well and they had momentum through some of the game.
TJ, favorite game?
My favorite game was last year's Cooper game in the regular season. It was a shootout, a high-scoring game. It was just high-paced and fun to watch, fun to be a part of.
Yeah, and something that sticks out to me is about that Cooper game last year was how well the run defense was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had a lot of yards through the air. Don't get me wrong, but their rushing total may have been negative.
Yeah.
What went into stopping the run that game?
We had worked a lot that week with our blitzes. So our blitzes would be for run, and it wouldn't be like really pass blitzes. So we would blitz for the run so we could stop it.
All right, now you three with me are seniors on the team. You've been here for 4 years. How do you take over that role of now being the leader and being the seniors here in this locker room?
Now that I'm a senior, I just have to watch my every move because the younger guys look up to you, and you got to set a good example and help coach them up, tell them right from wrong, and set a good example overall.
One thing specifically is, you look at some of these DBs. A lot of them coming up are a lot younger. How do you, get them right just from a football standpoint?
Just give them tips from just my experience and. Like whether that be technique or just playing the ball, anything, just making sure that they stay confident and keep working on their game.
Tommy, now the biggest thing you're taking away as being a senior now on this team?
Just trying to take over the tight end room and establish a good leadership there and make the next generation of tight ends better and just keep improving how the younger classes get better and bigger and stronger and just make sure they know what they're doing and always have offer support, courage whenever they need it and just be the strong leader that I need to be. And just thanks to Coach Herm, he's made it easy for me to step up and for the younger tight ends like Jack Price, Brady Carnahan, and also Taylor Ensign sometimes. They're really fun to watch. They're going to be a next good couple tight ends coming up, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Now, specifically, I know you had mentioned earlier that you came up behind Luke, who you had said was a really good leader for you. Talk to me about what he did for you and how you're taking that on to somebody like Brady, who's playing very well.
Luke was Luke was very strong, and how he was a big blocking tight end. I mean, he would go up there and destroy people. It was just a nice little showing me what I can do and how good I can be, and he just helped me by learning the plays from the jump from my freshman to sophomore year, and just he also played defensive end too, so he was also good on both sides of the ball, and I just hope that the other tight ends looked up to me like how I looked up to Luke.
TJ, favorite biggest moment you're taking away as being a senior?
My big thing is this year I've been trying to make the younger linebackers more aggressive so they can fill the hole and take on the blocking, take on the pulling guard, and make the tackles in the inside and in the inside run so we can stuff the inside.
All right, moving on now. Last season, as we mentioned earlier, one of the most successful seasons we've seen here in nearly 10 years. What was the biggest thing you took away from last season? It doesn't have to be directly from that last game, but it can be, of just, how things finished up and what you're looking forward to taking from that.
Well, from the last game of the season, what I learned from it is just to go into every game with confidence, no matter who the opponent is, and we beat them in the regular season, so that really doesn't matter because when playoffs come, it's win or go home, and just going into every game with a good attitude, no matter who the opponent is.
Tommy, biggest thing you took away from last season?
It's just not underestimating teams. I mean, we beat Cooper in the regular season. We also beat Dixie in the regular season, had to play in the playoffs, and we took care of business against Dixie, even though I think against Cooper we kind of didn't play the best game we could offensively. Our defense executed well, but I feel it's just knowing that anyone can beat you on any given Friday night.
TJ?
From last season, it really put a sour taste in my mouth because I don't like losing, and losing was not fun. So I've worked really hard to ensure this season that it doesn't happen again.
Now going forward to this season, we're already 2 games into our scrimmages. What's the number one thing you've taken away from those 2 games? We'll start with you, Dom.
I'm just excited to see how good we can be because our offense is super explosive, and I know they haven't even scratched the surface of how good they can be. And it's the same way with defense. I think defensively we have some things that we can work on, but we definitely have a lot of potential, and I think it will be a great season.
Tommy, 2 wins in a row. What's the number one thing you've taken away?
I think it's very exciting how fast our defense is and how our linebackers gain coverage because I feel that's what we kind of struggle with against, especially Cooper, in those games in the regular season. So I feel our linebackers being able to cover and our DBs being a year older and learning to be more aggressive and play the run better. I think our offense is obviously really explosive and has shown that through the last 2 games. And just all together, I feel our schematics are good and we're a winning football team. I can't wait to see how well we do this year.
TJ?
We're athletic on both sides of the ball, so it's really nice to have those athletes that can make the plays. But for the defensive, there's definitely things we can work on, like tackling and pursuit to the ball. And so we want more guys to the ball so we can make those group tackles and ensure that they don't get any more yards.
Looking forward to the upcoming schedule. Week 1, Lexington Catholic. Week 2, Covington Catholic. What did you learn from having those 2 big games back-to-back last year that you're going to take into this year?
Just to live in the now and to just focus on that opponent that we have each week, whether that's scouting them and all that type of stuff. But just living in the now, being ready, scouting the teams, knowing their offense, going out there to play.
Tommy?
I think the most important thing we've learned is just being mentally prepared. I feel like in the Cupcake game, I mean, it's one of the biggest rivalries in Kentucky. We psych ourselves out and make it too big of a game than it is. It's another football game. We just need to act like we're playing any other team in Northern Kentucky and just take care of business. And I feel like last year, we were just too excited to play a team when we came off a high after being Lex Cath. I just think we need to calm down and just, it's another football team we got to play.
TJ?
I think the most important thing is going in ready to play, knowing that we can beat them by watching film, knowing what they're going to do, so we can stop it.
All right, now talking to some of you guys. First, TJ, last year, and I think looking back, you look at some of the 4 great linebackers that you've had a chance to learn from. You know, really one of the better sets I've seen come through Highlands since I've been watching Bluebird football. What did you learn from having those 4 really good linebackers to kind of piggyback off of and take that now into your senior year?
Those 4 linebackers last year were really good. They were aggressive. They knew how to tackle. And the most important part, I think, was Dalton Roller. He knew the defense very well. He knew what everyone was supposed to do. And he really stepped up his senior year from not playing a whole lot his junior year. And I think I've taken a lot of inspiration from him of knowing what everything is supposed to happen on defense and step up my senior year.
Tommy, you played some pretty good defense against Ryle, including a very memorable moment where you were able to swat the ball away and kind of let them know about it. What was, talk to me how you've transitioned to becoming, now a defensive player on top of being a tight end.
Well, I didn't play offense my sophomore year, and towards the end of my junior year, I started working defensive line. And it's all thanks to the defensive line coach Joe, for helping me through the off season and getting better at tackling and block shedding. I mean, it's a whole different game than the offensive side of the ball. And I love playing defense. It's fun running around, hitting some people. I'm fast in a lot of offensive linemen. It's fun just running around and having fun.
So is the transition pretty easy for you? Obviously, learning those plays is going to be difficult, but if you can really learn to use the speed there, you could probably win a lot of those battles up front.
The transition is a lot harder. I mean, I got to learn how to block shed and how different techniques work for all the different sets we run and plays, and just knowing what to do in which situation, what the offensive tackle gives you. Just playing off him.
Dom, you've been one of those lockdown corners for the Birds in the last couple of years. What's gone into being as good at cornerback as you've been over these last few years?
Just playing with confidence. At DB, confidence is big because you're gonna make plays, but you're also gonna get beat, and you just got to keep your confidence high and play with a chip on your shoulder every down.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. There's another interview. Give it up one last time here for our senior football players that we're interviewing here tonight. Coming up next, we'll get a chance to talk with Coach Hayden Spire after taking a little bit of a break. So we'll be back here in a couple of minutes here to talk to Coach. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are ready for our next set of interviews. First, it'll be we'll wrap things up with coaches. The first coach we'll talk to is our offensive coordinator here for Highlands football. But before we begin, once again, a shout out to all of those listening online to bluebirdsradio.com and Barleycorns for hosting us out here. It's been a really great event so far. We have a couple more interviews left. So, starting things off, Coach Spire, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, man. Brennan, thank you for having me. This is incredible. Like you said, Barleycorns really hooked us up. Great turnout. The past few years watching you kind of grow in your, broadcasting really career at this point. It's been really awesome. Love going back, watching the games online with you commentating. Really looking forward to seeing what you're going to do, post high school, because it's pretty clear that you got a bright future.
Coach, I really appreciate that, and you guys have been really great letting me be around the team. So it's been all good, and kind of going back 4 years now, you and your dad have taken over since. What's been, from an offensive perspective, your biggest challenge so far you've faced?
Obviously when you get here, you're implementing a system. And so year one, it was really just the building blocks of the system. Our run game was pretty simplified for that first year, just getting in the key schemes we wanted to get in. And then year on year, you start to build on top of it some RPO schemes. You start to realize, hey, we've been, guard age counter. Feel like we have a tackle now who can pull. We'll go guard tackle. Really the same schemes. but you're just making it look different to a defense. So it really depends on your personnel year in and year out, knowing what you have, what you can do. I think the biggest challenge is just getting the guys comfortable.
So you mentioned the RPO, and that was something I noticed a lot at Mail, is you guys were kind of implementing that. Is putting new types of plays like that kind of an overtime thing? Is that an off-season thing, or has that been 4 years in the making? Talk to me about that.
I would say it's been 4 years in the making. We didn't necessarily have the RPOs now that we had back then, but we had a run scheme that, year one, and then we realized, hey, this would be a good run scheme to RPO off of, and then we construct some RPO schemes off of it. But it really boils down to having a quarterback like Rio, who's so dynamic, sees the field so well, and can get the ball in and out of his hands so quick. When you have a guy like that, you really have a lot at your disposal.
Now, you talked about Rio. He's been very well protected, I'd say. The offensive line is as big as I've seen them in quite some time. What's gone into the process of building the offensive line up?
Oh, gosh. We got here, again, year one, and I think we had one offensive lineman that first year over 250 pounds, and we knew that wasn't sustainable. We were getting bullied up front. The guys were fighting their tails off, but physically we struggled to compete. So the large emphasis of our focus after that first year was we were doing daily weigh-ins. We were making sure the boys were eating before workouts, after workouts, before practice, after practice, and that's really continued. Sean Zitt, who's our strength and conditioning coach, has done a magnificent job hooking or incorporating local businesses that provide meals for our boys. But yeah, it boils down to they had to put the right nutrition into their body because we're going to work them, and if they're not putting the right nutrition into their body, it could be to a detriment. So making sure that they have enough protein, enough carbs, fats, all of that has been extremely important.
You mentioned Coach Sean. He's worked a lot with the running backs, and the running back room is super deep right now. What's gone into, hey, Jonathan Indy, everybody. 3 run out. The running back room is super deep. They're playing super well right now. What has he done to really make the running back room as good as it is?
I think one thing he's done is instill a mindset in the running backs that we don't finish runs backwards. Everything we do, we finish forwards, and we're going to hit the run where it's supposed to hit, whether it's A gap, B gap, whatever it is. We're going to hit it where it's supposed to hit. We're going to trust that our linemen take care of business. On the flip side, he has turned those kids into fantastic athletes through our weight training and through our speed and agility work.
Going kind of backwards here a little bit, the last game of last year was interesting because the first time you play the Jaguars, it is over 100 points of offense. The second time, it's less than 60. What was the difference there from a purely offensive standpoint, and what did you take away with that?
I think there's kind of two aspects you can look at. On the front end, offensively, at that point in the season, who we had become. We were a power run team. We had 2 1,000-yard rushers who we felt really confident in, who we felt like could carry us. And they did a magnificent job. Obviously there were a few things we could have done better, but a large part of it is they have a very explosive offense at Cooper, and I don't think that's a secret. They've got more than 2 really good receivers, and they've got a quarterback who's dang good. So part of it is we want to keep them off the field as much as possible, control the clock, which we felt also played into our game of we are a power run team, and that's what we do best. So we felt doing what we do best would help our defense and keep them off the field. I understand, we put up 58 the first game, we put up 15 the second game, but we can also look at what our defense was able to do. It was just a game plan situation. They showed up. They're a heck of a team, and they played a heck of a game, and that game could have gone either way.
Then you go to this offseason following, last season, and we see one of the biggest changes, transitions that we've seen in Highlands in a long time, going from a D1 quarterback to now going to an incoming junior with, we got some experience last year, but he's now taking over the program. Talk to me about getting Rio in now to be the full-time quarterback.
Yeah, that was a process that really started toward the latter half of Rio's freshman year. And I'll say on his end, in his mind, it really started, in the summer going into his freshman year. he had an opportunity to really take over when we went down for 7-on-7 at EKU, and we ended up winning the thing with him at quarterback. And then throughout his freshman year, there was a chance that we felt like he might have ended up being the guy his freshman year. But as that season progressed, Brody, we got comfortable with Brody. Brody took over, and Rio got really comfortable. Had a great freshman year with freshman ball, and then he played phenomenal on Saturdays on JV. And I remember we were actually playing Cooper in a JV game. I think it was our last JV game of the season, and Rio threw 5 or 6 touchdowns in, I think, 2.5, 3 quarters, and unfortunately he broke his wrist. But I also think that was a huge motivation for him to come back off of that. And then going into last season, it was a no-brainer that he was the future quarterback of the program, and so we were going to put him in spots where he could get comfortable in big moments in games early in the season, and I thought he did a wonderful job. He ended, if you told half the programs in the state or all the programs in the state that they were going to have a quarterback coming back who had 22 total touchdowns and 2 interceptions, I think they'd be thrilled.
Yeah, man. The other big piece I'd say that's coming back and upgrading as well are the wide receivers. I think a lot of people looked at who we had last year and say, oh, you're losing them, but you now look at Jackson Arnold, Adam Surrey, some really athletic guys. Talk to me about building them up to now be some of the best around.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson and Adam, they're just kind of one of a kind as players and as people. But really, it goes beyond them. Tyus McCarter, his coming out party's coming any day now. Again, we talked to Hayden Haas earlier. A kid you can put anywhere on the field, and he's going to know what to do. And then obviously Tommy in the tight end room. But we got younger guys. Peyton Klosterman, who's probably the fastest kid in the program. Ian Garahan, who can go up and make any play you put him in a position to. So those guys just got to get comfortable playing varsity football.
You talk about the speed. Those combine numbers were incredible. Looking at those numbers, what does that tell you as a coach?
So we pre-tested our kids the night before with no crowd or anything, and really comparing those numbers to the testing where we invited the community out. It tells me that our kids are going to show up and they're going to go play. That they fed off the crowd. The adrenaline was there, and they tested great. And testing numbers are what they are. You take them for what they are. They don't necessarily always translate to the football field, but it did tell me that what we're doing in the off season is working.
Another great athlete who not only performed there well, he's in the scrimmages, he's really shown out to me is Tayden. I mean, Tayden Lorenzen's playing like an absolute freak, and he's only an incoming sophomore. What's going into coaching a kid like that? He's a Swiss Army knife, but he's also a quarterback.
Yeah, it can honestly be a little frustrating at times from the aspect of he's going to do things that you can't coach and you want to tell him not to do, but then he goes and does it and he scores touchdowns, and it's genetic. Like that, he just does things that I don't think anyone else can do, and you really wouldn't let anyone else do. But he's able to pull them off sometimes, and he's fun. He's really fun to watch. He just goes and plays, and he loves playing the game.
Go back to the running backs a little bit. We saw, I think it was yesterday. It was the halfback screen, slipping him out with those offensive linemen in front of him worked really well. Was that a sort of a planned move before that game, or is that maybe a preview to something you guys have been working on?
No, we don't really game plan or scout or do anything special for scrimmages. For the most part, I want to go out and I want to call our offense as is and just see how our guys adjust, and then we'll fix it up on film. So that was probably just in the moment, just kind of came into my mind, and that's just what I called in the moment.
So now you've got 2 scrimmages in. Last Friday against Mail, yesterday against Ryle, both wins. What's the number one thing you're taking away from those games?
That I don't really care what the score was. I'm glad we played well offensively. I thought Rio did a great job of really being extremely calm in the pocket. Like we said, the offensive line did a great job keeping him clean. I thought we did a much better job in pass protection against Mail than we did against Ryle. But you're going to get that. These are high school kids. That's why we do what we do. We want to get it on film. We want to coach it up, and we want to get it corrected. But I was really pleased just with the way we spread the ball out, our ball distribution. We're not locking in on one certain guy, and the way we're running the ball. I love the way our running backs are running.
I interviewed Tommy up here a couple minutes ago. He's been playing some better tight end. What's gone into, he's played behind Luke the last few years. Luke's graduated. Now it's his spot. What's gone into coaching him up to being a tight end? Because the tight end's been a big spot in your guys' offense.
Yeah, we brought a coach along this year, Coach Braden Hermes, and he's done a fantastic job just taking the tight ends and running with them. And I was actually talking with one of the other coaches on the way here today. I think Tommy's done a great job of becoming a coach himself. He is taking a mentorship role, and he's coaching those younger guys, and I think that's making him better and allowing him to understand all the conceptual aspects of what we're trying to do.
Coach, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. Coming up next, we're talking with head coach Bob Spire, and then wrap things up here from Barleycorns. Thanks again to Coach Hayden Spire. Give it up. And one more interview coming up next. Thanks, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking with me. We have our final segment of the night here as we're just coming up on 7:40 p.m. We'll be interviewing with Highlands football's head coach, Coach Bob Spire. Coach, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon, for hosting this.
Yeah, I mean, this has been great once again. Thanks to everyone listening online, bluebirdsradio.com, and thank you for our great hosts here at Barleycorns, Cold Spring, Kentucky. So let's get into it. You guys, just talking to Coach Hayden, you mentioned 4 years now. This is the crop of seniors you guys started with. What's been your biggest challenge so far over these last 4 years?
Well, I was asking a couple of them the other day when I got here that first day, March 1st of 2021, how many were actually there for that at 6:15 for that very first workout. It wasn't very many of them. And obviously we gathered more into the fold as we went along. But, that was kind of an eye-opening start to where we were in the weight room and where we were physically. And, what's been kind of neat is just seeing the process allow these guys to put themselves in a position where they can go out and compete and line up and competitively play against anybody.
Now, you mentioned the weight room. That's something you and I have talked about for the last 4 years weekly when we sit down and talk before games. The growth of that, talk to me about that, because, Sean has been great over the last few years, but you guys really started it up there with a program that didn't have much of that.
Well, as long as I'm coaching, we'll probably always talk about it because to me it's the foundation of a successful football program. And so that's always going to be the case. And, from the time I became a head coach years and years ago, I've always felt like that's where everything started. And so I've always invested in my career from a knowledge-based standpoint and from a training standpoint. What are the things that we need to be doing to develop a high school football player so he can go out and perform physically and also develop his athleticism. Because to me, that's the whole key is it's not just about getting stronger, it's about developing as an athlete overall.
So you talk about athletes. When I was getting ready of things to ask you, I was thinking about the size of the D-line, but not only size, they're big, but they're also fast. How is it training, the process of training them to not only be as big and strong as they are, but getting those 40-yard dash times down and getting them as fast as you can back to the quarterback?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, when you look at our offensive line, they look just in pads, they look like what an offensive line is supposed to look like. But they're not donkeys. They can move. I don't know if I'm going to say they're thoroughbreds, but they're a bunch of really, really good workhorses that can move and execute athletically and skip, pull, and do the things in today's game that are cutting edge stuff for an offensive lineman. But we cross train, so our guys have to be able to play on the defensive line too. So you got to be able to run, play on defense. And so it's it's you don't want to say you're Henry Ford and it's like one factory assembly line, but in high school football it is kind of a mass production process, and then you individualize as much as you can per position. But that's a time factor that we don't have on the high school level like you have on the college and the professional level.
Now, you've coached many teams over the years, and you talk about it not being cookie cutter. Is this system you have of building strong, fast linemen, is this something years in the making, or is this something you knew when you became a head coach? This is my MO. I'm going to get these linemen big and strong and fast.
Well, I don't know that I knew going into it that's the way it was going to be the end result. But over time, I can tell you, and I know my history well enough to know, over time, I'm not sure our linemen haven't really been the ones that have flourished the most and have probably had the most opportunities at the college level And even at the NFL level, Juwan James was a first-round draft pick, played for us down at North Gwinnett. Austin Shepard was a 3-year starter, right tackle at Alabama, won 2 national championships. Guys like that, the guy, offensive line coach now at Georgia State, Man Ray St. Amour, was starting center for 4 years at Georgia Southern. And, Andy Kwan, who's the O-line coach at Arkansas. I can go on and on and on. And so many of our offensive linemen have been extremely productive. And what I like also is I think our approach really allows our kids to learn a lot of football. It's one of my goals when I put my head down on the pillow at night. Did our kids learn more about the game of football today? That's always been a huge goal for us.
So going, over these last few years, you've had some playoff games. Last year's the deepest you went as a Highland Bluebird. Going into that last game, the first time you saw the Jaguars, the defense, not really a factor. That was an offensive shootout. The second time, they played very, very sound fundamental defense. What went into coaching them to play Cooper for the second time?
Well, that first game was such a, and you get it was an anomaly. It was one of those things. And they're a really good football team, and they've got really good players. And so all the credit to them. But, we did some things in that game, particularly coming out of halftime, that I was kind of kicking myself over. And the offense bailed us out that night without question. But a good football team is going to win games differently almost every time they line up and play. I have no issue with that. The goal is to win. That's the ultimate end result goal. But I came out of that game and I'm like, we learned a lot tonight. And we play them again, which everybody kind of thought we would. We'll approach it a little bit differently. But it's still within our system. It's just a matter of what your emphasis is and how you approach it. And, we did some things in that first game. We kind of got a little cute and we're trying to bait them into doing some things. Well, damn, I'm not real smart because we baited them into doing some of the best things they do. So, as a coach, that's not really the route you want to go. But, you look at that and you just say, okay, next time we play them, we can do a lot better than this.
Now, going past that game into the offseason, last year one of the big strengths of the team, specifically the defense, was those linebackers. You had 4 core, very good senior linebackers. What was the transition like going, okay, we had 4 great seniors, now we have to move into a new crop of 3 or 4 good linebackers. What's that transition been like?
Well, it's high school football coaching because if you took a picture of the main guys this year and you took a picture last year, it would look like 2 totally different football programs, and we've gone from guys last year that played linebacker that were really pretty big and thumpers, what I would call thumpers, really good in the box against a run game, very, very physical, but not maybe guys that are outstanding out in space. And then you look at what we're putting on the field this year. We're not as big. Now we're going to play as hard and as physically as hard as we can, but we're not going to bring as much size at the linebacker position and maybe not be quite that straight head-on thumping kind of linebacker crew. But I think we'll be more athletic. I think we'll play with more speed and burst. I think we'll be better in pass coverage. And so we kind of got to use them a little bit differently than we did that group last year.
One player in particular, Peyton Klosterman, who's playing really good, kind of in the middle there, but he's playing very fast. I mean, do you take those 40-yard dash numbers and predict things like that, or did you know, hey, before even the combine, he's going to be a great playmaker in space?
Well, look, coaching is about numbers sometimes, too. You look at your guy, he's the fastest on your football team. How we get him on the field? What do we do to help him develop? Obviously that motivates you as a coach. You can't lie about that. You look at that and you don't want your fastest guy on the team standing on the sideline watching for 48 minutes, but he's got to produce and he had a rough patch with some things but he's grown up a lot. He's getting a lot better. He's getting confidence. You can see it every day. But there's no question that we're motivated to push that along because the numbers don't lie.
Now we're 2 scrimmages into the year. First one was Friday at Male. What was the big thing you took away from that Male scrimmage?
Well, as a head coach, I looked at it and okay, from a veteran standpoint, I felt really, really good about the guys that I expected to be ready. I was a little bit uncomfortable that maybe the guys that are the next tier that need to be ready to step in per injury need to start giving us more depth. I thought there was a little drop off more than I expected. And then I really thought our freshmen kind of struggled a little bit more than I thought they would. That's a good football team they lined up against. So, you know, which is great for us. But then we come back, I'm going to preempt your question, then we come back this next time against Ryle, and probably my biggest takeaway that I was most pleased with as a head coach, I thought our JV or second-tier guys and our freshmen made dramatic improvement just from that coming out of that male scrimmage to this one. That was probably the thing I was most pleased about.
Well, you did. You stole it. That's great transition there, Coach. Media trained right there. That's
so we're working together.
Yeah, that's great. 4 years, we finally got it. Blue-white, the third scrimmage coming up. What's the biggest thing you look for there? What do you hope to say after that game? Okay, that was a success. What goes into that?
Well, I want it to be a fun event because it really needs to be a big focus on our seniors. You know, it's blue-white night for the seniors and for all the seniors in our school that are going to be, recognized. But also we have a Hall of Fame team coming in, and so that ties in community and past history and tradition. And so you kind of want a lot of the focus to be more than just really about our football team that night. You want it to be about the seniors as a group. You want it to be about the tradition of the program. You want it to be about the Hall of Fame folks that are back in town. You want it to be about the other senior athletes. We just happen to be blessed to be a platform for everybody to maybe get some exposure, and we embrace that. You know, but beyond that, we kind of know, I think, coming out of these two scrimmages, we kind of know, okay, we know what Jackson can do. We know what Adam's ready to do. You know, those kind of things. I look for when it comes football time, kind of just give them a chance to get a little game speed again. But I really am looking for the second tier, third tier, all the way down to the freshmen to get a lot of reps Friday night and continue that progress. Because to me, high school football coaching is about the entire team and the whole program. And so it's not about a one-year season. It's not about a one-night game. And so I really want this to be a depth development, approach for our team Friday night also.
Thank you, Coach, for your time. Everyone, as you mentioned, Friday night, the blue-white scrimmage at David Cecil Memorial Stadium at Highlands. Thank you all for coming out. You've been a great crowd. Thank you to Barleycorns for hosting. This has been a great event. Great to get all football in here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Coach. Next month will be our soccer radio show, so get ready for that. Specific dates and times will come out later. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Barleycorns for being a great host, and everyone who was able to make tonight possible. As I mentioned, this was a 2-year process of finally getting everything together. So thank you all for listening, if you listened online, and being here and supporting what has been an excellent night. That'll do it for me, for Brennan Bucher, bringing you the first ever Highlands Live Sports radio show, and everyone who made this possible. Thank you all, and we will catch you next month.